So these are the parts of the brain stem, that is the midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. Okay. So these three components are collectively called as brain stem. Previously we studied about the brain stem, pons, and today we'll go for the medulla oblongata. Okay, just let us see what are the functions of the midbrain. Just a revision. So midbrain is consisting of the tectum and tegmentum. Tectum is consisting of superior and inferior colliculus. Tegmentum is consisting of the red nucleus, periaquedural gray matter, and substantia nigra. So these are the important structures: the substantia nigra and red nucleus. Then superior colliculus and inferior colliculus, they are the part of the tegmentum. Tectum. Okay. So the functions what we discussed earlier, the functions of the superior colliculus is to control the visual reflexes, and the inferior colliculus is associated with processing of the auditory responses. Then coordination of the sensory motor information was done by the red nucleus, and the substantia nigra, this structure, this one, is responsible for controlling and coordinating the motor activities. And other parts of the brain also is associated with different functions like autonomic functions, motivated behavioral functions, and different behavioral responses to threatening something like that. So midbrain also plays an important role in this part. Then we talked about the pons. This pons region, this is the pontine nuclei, and the rest of the portion behind the pons is the tegmentum. It contains a special structure which is called as reticular formation, which is extended up to the medulla oblongata also. So these structures, these collectively, these pontine nuclei and the tegmentum, which includes the reticular formation, this forms the pons, and this reticular formation is nothing but the meshwork or network of the different neurons, and the cell bodies of the different neurons, they are aggregated here and they are forming a meshwork like structure. So what are the functions of the pons? They actually they're responsible for generation of the respiratory rhythm, that means the rhythm for breathing, and they are responsible for rapid eye movements. Pons is responsible for rapid eye movement uh, during sleep, and that is called as REM sleep. Then it is responsible for secretion of the saliva, that it controls the salivary secretion and lacrimal secretion. The
স্যার
uh,
স্যার র্যাপিড আই মুভমেন্টটা বুঝলাম না।
rapid eye movement means during sleep. We have our sleep time is divided into two phases. One is REM sleep, another is non-REM sleep. During REM sleep, what actually happens, if although the person is sleeping, his eyeball moves very rapidly. So this type of sleep is called as REM sleep. And when the person sometime during sleep, we also found that his eyeball remains fixed. So that sleep duration is called as non-REM sleep. That means during that time, eyeball is not rapidly moving. Clear? So
ওকে স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ।
these rapid eye movements is actually controlled by the pons. Normally in daily life, in our eye movements, the movements of the eyeball is under the control of the midbrain and pons. So the midbrain and pons, they are responsible for controlling the movements of the eyeball. And during sleep, what actually happens, the rapid eye movement occurs due to the stimulation or due to the activation of the different regions of the pons. Okay, then it is responsible for salivary secretion. That means pons regulates the secretion of the saliva and the secretion of the tear from the lacrimal gland. So these are the functions of the pons. Next, the pons, the last one, pons is associated with the contraction of the facial muscles to express facial expression. So whatever the facial expression we are showing, that means suppose a person is angry, we can easily read his image of the face and we can say that he is very angry now, he or she is very angry now. If a person is happy, there is an impression in his face that she or he is happy now. Oh, and if a person is sad, we can easily say by seeing his face that he is now sad, like that. So these are nothing but the done by the pons. Pons actually send the stimulus to the different facial muscles in such a way that the muscles contract, and these muscles actually um, helps in expressing the physical mental state of a human being. So whatever the the mental condition is expressed by the facial expression, this facial expression is due to the activation of the different nucleus of the pontine region. So pons is responsible for uh, showing the facial expression, and it is also responsible for mastication. Mastication means movement of jaw actually depends upon the stimulus which are coming from the pontine region. So these are the functions of the pons what I discussed earlier. Clear? Is there any problem here? Is there any problem in this part?
No, sir.
No, sir.
So today we will move towards the next region, that is the medulla oblongata. Look at the picture. This is this portion after the pons. It is called as medulla oblongata. So medulla oblongata, it is like that of the pons. It is also having the reticular formation, and this reticular formation is extended throughout the medulla oblongata. It is present in the pons as well as to some extent in the midbrain region also. So if we look, the medulla oblongata is differentiated or divided into two portions. One is ventral medulla, one is called as ventral medulla. This is this region is called ventral medulla, and the back side is called as from the reticular formation to the back. From this region to this one, this region is called as dorsal medulla, which is also known as tegmentum. This portion is called as tegmentum, and this portion is called as ventral medulla. So it is in front of the reticular formation. Yeah. So these are the main parts. Behind it, we are having the cerebellum in this region. It is not mentioned here. So what are the functions of the medulla oblongata? Medulla oblongata actually responsible for controlling the different autonomic functions, different autonomic activities, like regulating the respiration, regulation of the heart rate, and digestive processes. So what actually happens, with the help of other structures of the brain as well as with the help of the pons, and the medulla oblongata, it regulates the respiration, and it regulates the heart rate, and also controls the digestive process. So by this process, medulla oblongata plays an important role. Medulla oblongata having some neurons which are responsible for sensitizing the different autonomic functions. That means the suppose you have to regulate the respiration, so the neurons present in the medulla oblongata can sensitize the information what is coming from the stretching of the different regions of the what I can say and the in the chest wall, and these informations are conveyed to the medulla oblongata. Like that, with the help of pons, it also regulates the respiratory rate. How it regulates the respiratory rate? Actually, the rate of regulation of the respiration depends upon the concentration of the carbon dioxide within the blood itself. If the concentration of the carbon dioxide increases, then what actually happens? It stimulates the pontine and medulla region so that the respiratory rate can be increased, so that the excess carbon dioxide can be washed out. So by this process, the respiration is regulated. Similarly, this is one pathway, but another pathway is also there. Uh, we have some chemoreceptors which are present in the nearer to the heart. That means the great aorta. That chemoreceptors also can sensitize the carbon dioxide concentration within the blood, and accordingly it can send the stimulus to the brain for increase of respiration rate. So these are the both the way, by both way they can regulate the respiration, and it also responsible for regulating the heart rate. Heart rate might be increased during the exercise or during the um, different emotional conditions, like when a person is afraid or when a person needs some energy to do some work, automatically its heart rate increases, and when we are excited also our heart rate increases. So these increase in heart rate, it's a autonomic control, and this autonomic control, autonomic stimulation is done by the medulla oblongata itself, with the help of, obviously with the help of pons and other structures. And it also regulates the digestive process by stimulating the contraction of the different smooth muscles present in the digestive tract. It also stimulates the digestive tract and then different glands also. So by this process it can stimulate the digestion process. Other than this, the reticular formation which is present in the medulla region, it play an important role in the transmission of the motor and sensory impulses. Whatever mentioned here, the reticular formation play an important role in the transmission of the motor and sensory impulses. What I told earlier also, whatever the sensory inputs or whatever the motor inputs are passing nearby the medulla oblongata or pontine region, they give their connection towards this reticular formation. What actually happens? This reticular formation is continuously receiving sensory and motor impulses, whether it is present or not, and by this process they also send the stimulus to the brain about the presence of sensory and motor impulses. So it's like a feedback system, and this process actually helps in arousal and sleep cycle. That means when a person fall asleep, although we know that thalamus plays an important role in arousal and sleeping process, but reticular formation is actually helping here. Clear? Is it okay? Is there any problem?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
So we discussed about the different functions of the medulla oblongata. The major functions are mentioned here. It regulates the autonomic nervous activity. That means autonomic nervous system, regulation of the autonomic nervous system can be done by with the help of medulla oblongata. It is responsible for regulating the respiratory rate and heart rate and digestive process. It can control the movements of the relay of somatosensory information from the internal organ. So this is one important function. It can play important role in controlling the arousal and sleeping cycle. Okay, arousal and sleep. This can be controlled with the help of, obviously, with the help of the thalamus. Thalamus is the major source, and it is responsible for the reticular formation present in the medulla oblongata, is responsible for transmission of the motor and sensory impulses. Clear? So these are the functions of the medulla oblongata mainly. And as medulla oblongata remains connected with the next structure, that is the spinal cord. So whatever the nerve fiber is coming from the other part of the brain, as well as from the medulla oblongata, midbrain and pons, they passes up to the spinal cord. So whatever the peripheral nerves which are passing or which are carrying the information from the spinal cord, that informations are coming from the higher part of the brain via the medulla oblongata. So medulla oblongata is the midway through which the information passes towards the spinal cord. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So the next structure is cerebellum. Cerebellum actually present behind the pons and medulla oblongata, and you can see here. So this is cerebellum. This is the side view, and it is divided into three main lobes. That is, the one is anterior lobe, another is posterior lobe, and third one is flocculonodular lobe. Clear? So if we look from the back side, it looks like this. So this one is anterior lobe. This one, look at the cursor. This one is anterior lobe. Okay, and behind it, this one is posterior lobe. Clear? And this one is flocculonodular lobe. So you are seeing from the back side. So if you see from the back side, you can see that in the middle there is a structure which is called as vermis. Okay, and on the both side of the vermis, they are having two cerebellar hemispheres. They are the hemisphere. Okay, so these two cerebellar hemisphere is again differentiated in two zones. That is, this is called as intermediate zone on the both sides after the vermis, and this one is lateral zone. The rest of the portion is lateral zone. Okay, so you are seeing this picture when you see the cerebrum in this direction. So when you are looking from this direction, then you only can see the cerebellum in this type of structure can be found. So is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So what are the
Yes,
functions of the cerebellum? The cerebellum actually is responsible for controlling two major important functions. Number one is regulation of the posture and equilibrium. Regulation of the posture means, what do you mean by regulation of the posture? Posture means the present situation of your body. If you are sitting, then it is called as sitting posture. If you are standing, then it is known as standing posture. If you are laying down or bending, so that is known as bending posture. So when you are sitting also, if you are not also doing anything, any work or like that, if you are idly sitting on a bench or like that, So that time also the different muscles in your body contract and relax in such a way that you can sit properly. Okay, for sitting properly, for standing properly, we also need the contraction of the different muscles in a particular manner. So if the contraction, this contraction and relaxation of the muscles is hampered or affected, then your posture will not be maintained. So what actually happening? The contraction and relaxation of these muscles in a equilibrium. That means they are finely tuned so that you can sit properly, or whether you can stand properly, or you can bend properly. So you are maintaining your posture by controlling these muscles. Keep in the mind that contraction of these muscles, that the impulse for contraction of these muscles are coming from the motor area of the cerebrum. Motor area of the cerebrum, that is the primary motor area or secondary or supplementary motor area, but the that is finely tuned by the cerebellum so that you can maintain your posture. So by this process, cerebellum helps in the maintenance of the posture and equilibrium. If it is damaged, so your maintenance of the posture and equilibrium may be affected. And for that reason, maintenance of the posture and equilibrium, we need the help of the cerebellum. So whatever the stimulus is coming from the cerebral cortex, it is finely tuned by the cerebellum for the maintenance of the posture. Clear?
Yes, sir.
And the third
Yes, sir.
second function, it is responsible for regulation of the skilled voluntary movement initiated by the cerebral cortex. Again the same thing. Here is a term you can find, that is the skilled voluntary movement. What is skilled voluntary movement? Voluntary movement means the movements which occur due to the contraction of the skeletal muscles. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you are controlling your voluntary muscles for any movement. Clear? Then what is skilled voluntary movement? The skilled voluntary movements, these are nothing but the movements which is responsible for development of the skill. Suppose you can rotate your hand, you can rotate your finger, that is another thing. But if you write something, or if you trying to paint something, that means you are doing some skillful work. So painting, it's a skillful work. So while you are painting, that means you are that is a skilled voluntary movement. Playing different sports where skills are required, that is also skilled voluntary movement. As for example, gymnastic, batting, bowling, all these things, these are called as skilled voluntary movement. So obviously drawing, painting, whatever a person do, these are called as skilled voluntary movement. So this skilled voluntary movement can be regulated by the cerebellum. Although the same thing, although the movement, for the movements of the different muscles, suppose you are drawing something, that means what you are doing, the muscles of the hand is contracting in a particular manner. Okay, contracting or relaxing in a particular manner. Is it okay? Without the contraction and relaxations of the muscles, Can we muscles of the hand? Can we draw something? Can we draw something?
No, sir.
No,
So,
sir.
No, sir.
so for drawing, you need contraction and relaxations of your muscles, hand muscles properly. Clear? But these contractions are slightly different from other normal activities. That means you are going for a skilled work. So your muscles should be contracted in a skillful manner so that you can draw properly. Okay. Everyone cannot draw properly or good painting. Everyone not a good artist. Why? And those who are good artists, that means what he or she has done, he or she has developed his cerebellum in such a way that he or she can uh, go for good painting. So this needs the skillful movements of your hands, and this skillful movement of your hand is further controlled by the cerebellum. Okay, so for fine regulation you need the help of the cerebellum. Cerebrum itself is not enough for this skilled movement. So cerebellum playing an important role here by controlling the contraction and relaxation of the different muscles of the different body parts to for proper drawing or like that. Yeah, so cerebellum having a major role here. Clear?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes.